Okay, part 3, everyone. So now what we're going to go through is inline and block elements first and the difference between the two. Then we're going to talk about the box model and how we can use it to lay out our text. Text and other content really. You're then going to use other YouTube videos that I pop up on Daymap to learn about other modes of layout, so such as float and such as the flexbox and grid layouts as well. All right, so let's get started with the elements and elements that are inline versus block. So as you can see on the screen in front of you, inline elements only take up the space that surrounds their content itself. So they're the same size as the content. The elements are displayed in a line from the left, okay, and they keep appearing to the right until they literally cannot appear to the right anymore and they have to go underneath. Examples of inline elements are the anchor tag or a link tag, span, strong, okay. Then we've got blocks, which essentially take up an entire line of content. So examples of these are paragraphs, heading 1, article, section, and they always start on a new line, okay? So what I would like you to do is open up your CSS cheat sheet, scroll down, be in your HTML file, by the way, and what we're going to do is under our box model comment tag, we are going to, oh, it didn't work. Okay. We are going to type in this line of code here. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly format mine correctly, but for you, pause this now and type this in. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to have a play around with these different inline and block elements. Okay. So once you've done that, then let's save it, save that, not that we needed to, and let us refresh this, and you should have this down here. So it's very hard to see at the moment, but we've got 3 inlines that are right after each other, and then we've got 3 blocks that are underneath each other, okay? Now, if we come back here, what we're able to do is we are able to manipulate these things. What I might really quickly do so then you can see these manipulations better is we are going to, under our box level element, add in some colors. So I think that I am going to use a selector and I'm going to write, so I'm reading backwards. So I am going to say that my anchorages that are under the div class of inline/block. So I'm going to start off with a class. Inline/block is my class, and my other descendant tag is the A, curly brackets, and then I want background color to be yellow. And then I want to create another line of code, and this time I'm going to have same class, but it's going to be the paragraphs this time, and these guys can be orange. Now let me add in my semicolons, otherwise it will not work. Okay, I just had to change my class name so that then it was a dash rather than a slash. But now I have my yellow and my orange. So if we head back to the PowerPoint, what we're actually able to do is we are able to manipulate these elements if we do not want these to be inline, for example, or these to be block. So we are able to, underneath our CSS code that we've just written, write in these properties and values to change the, mode of our CSS. So I might make it so that then I'm split screening with that there. So for example, I know that this here is a inline element, my links. So therefore, if I was to write display and then I want block, then what should happen is we should see it now act like a block element, and vice versa. If we were to write inline, then these ones act like inline elements. Okay, now why is this important? This is important because if you are trying to do a layout and things aren't working for you, then you might need to include some of these declarations to make it work for you, essentially. Probably the one that you'd use more often would be this one here. Now, the other thing that we can include is we can say inline dash block, which then means that it has the properties of both. So in this case, I will write that there, and I will write inline here. And we'll save it. And we will refresh, and then you can see that it has that gap in between, okay, but they're all essentially acting like inline text, okay. However, if you wanted to, you can use these for laying out your entire page. They were once upon a time used for this purpose. It's not recommended now because there's other layout properties. However, if you were to adjust the height of each of these boxes and the the width as well, say for example to something like that, and we saved it, then you can see that it's acting as if it were a inline element sitting next to each other, and I could have these three boxes lined up across, and therefore I could have all of my, say this is a paragraph here, I can have all of my writing inside this paragraph and then have another column and another column per se, if that's what I wanted, okay? All right, let us move on. Oh, I want that back. Let us move on to our box model. Okay, so every single bit of our content has this, box model around it. So you have the content itself, then padding, then border, and then a margin, okay? Now the content itself is determined by height and width. So with us changing our height and width here, we adjusted the size of our content, as we can see there. However, those things also have padding, border, and margin around it. The way that we can see this in our browser is if we right-click on our browser anywhere on our and then we go inspect, it will open up this panel here, okay? And if we have a play around, there it is, there we go. It'll appear in different layouts depending on what browser you're doing and how much you've opened it up. There we go, that's a bit better. So if I was to hover over this block text here, so over here we have your HTML. Unfortunately, in this browser format using Chrome, which is what I'm using, we are unable to edit our HTML directly here. However, from my knowledge, I think that we can edit directly if you're using Firefox. So you're welcome to swap over to that if you like. For us, what we're after is this class. So it's got these drop-down boxes that orders and simplifies your code a little bit, so it makes it easier to read. But if I were to click on this part here, it is going to directly show me what is content, what is padding, what is border, and what is margin, which it has none of those other things except for the content itself. Okay. Now, the reason that we inserted this image is so that then we could use it to understand this box model. So I've just relinked it. I discovered, if you're interested in how I discovered this, I discovered that I didn't have .jpeg behind my source, and that was why it wasn't linking. So check and make sure that you've got that too. Also check and make sure that the source is the name of the image, and you've also got it saved in the same folder as your HTML and CSS files. Sorry, my brain went dead there for a second. Okay, so I've got the line of HTML selected here, and I can see that at the moment, let me open it back up again. At the moment, all I have is the content itself. I have no padding, no border, and no margin. So let's change them. What we're going to do is we're going to add in some of those aspects. The way that we go about this is essentially by adding in our property and value, and then as well as our pixel, number. Now, there are two ways that you can write your code. You can either write it longhand or you can write it shorthand, okay? So longhand is essentially where you would write padding top, padding right, padding bottom, padding left. I want to see everyone doing this at this stage, okay? Because then that is demonstrating your understanding and you're not getting confused by the shorthand. In future assignments, you're welcome to use this method, but for now, I know that it is tedious, but just copy and paste all of your, paddings and margins and borders and so on and so forth, and use this long-handed version, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by adding in some padding for our image that we've got here. So let me just bring my CSS file back up. Okay, so what we are going to do is we're going to add in our padding, as I just said. After the inspect, it's there, it's just hiding. Okay, so we're in the box model. Sorry, I had to think there for a sec. I'm going to add it above, so just underneath my comment, and I'm going to say padding left first. Sorry, I'm just getting my PowerPoint up on a different screen so that then I can see it. Okay, so we're going to add in our padding top. And I don't know, let's make it 5 pixels. Then I might just copy and paste this because essentially it's going to be the same the entire way around. We could make it a little bit larger at the bottom. We could make it 10 pixels. Left and right. Okay, so that's our declaration block, but of course I jumped ahead and I need to add in my selector. So my selector is my image. So I'm probably going to use img. So I have something along those lines. What should happen now is if we refresh this and we are on the image, now you can see that it's added in those padding values, so that then if we hover, we now have a little bit of padding. I might even make my padding slightly larger. I might go, for the purpose of this, let's make it 50, 100, 50, and 5. 50 again, okay. And then if we refresh, saving, of course, first, we can see that it's much larger. And that's how much padding we have now. Now to add in our border. So remembering that it goes content, then padding, then border. Let's, like this suggests here, add in a 20 pixel border around everything. So for us to do that over here, you can do it in the same declaration block, and we can say, let me just adjust my formatting. Okay, so margin, start with the top again, and we'll do 30 pixels this time. Again, I'm going to copy and paste that. I think I'm going to have my margin as exactly the same size the whole way around. So bottom, left, and right. Again, once you have all of this stuff typed out just the once, then copy and paste your code over again. Okay, and we can see that I now have margin. Okay, I just realized I said we were going to do border, and then I've typed out a margin. Okay, so we have margin and we have padding. I forgot border. Let's add that in the middle. Okay, so our border, we can adjust its width, we can adjust its style, we can adjust its color. So let's do all three of those just to see what they do. Width. Now, when we're discussing border width, we can make that 8 pixels again. We can make it thin or medium or thick. All right, so I suggest let's stick with pixels since that's what we're doing so far. And it will essentially make the same border around everything, which is convenient for us. So saving, refreshing, we have no border. Okay, perhaps we have no border because we haven't actually done anything with our border. So let's add in a few other declaration blocks. Let me just make sure I've spelled everything right, which I have. Okay, so let's add in a border color. And let's make that red. And if I was to refresh just at that there, it would still not work because I haven't actually told my border what style it will be yet. So you can have many different styles. We can have none, hidden, dotted, dashed, solid, double, groove, ridge, inset, outset. If you go to W3 Schools as well, I was just having a look. Here's some examples of the different borders, okay, but there's other options here as well, all right? So for our purpose today, I think I am going to go with a dotted border. So that's what I'm going to write in. Dotted. And then if I save it and refresh it, there we go, okay? And you can see that it's now added in the border over here too. So let's talk about adding these things up, and then let's talk about how we can use the box model to, I guess, lay out your page a little bit better with content wrappers. All right. When it comes to measuring the box model, okay, sometimes it could be important that you need to add up all of your measurements so that then you know exactly how much like space an image in our case is taking up. So these are kind of the measurements here. I'm not going to go through it all, but I just want you to keep this slide in mind if you are trying to lay out your website and you need to be aware of all of these different things. Okay, let's now talk about content wrappers and how we can use content wrappers to, I guess, format your page further, and then I will practically let you go and to watch other videos learning about the the float and other like flex models and that sort of thing. Okay, so at the moment, if we open up our website, everything is aligned to the left. If we didn't want that, and if we wanted content to just be centered and not running to each side of our page, we can use what's called a content wrapper. Okay, now we could do this without a content wrapper, but then what that would mean is that our whole color, okay, would centerize. Let's try that now. So what we're going to do is perhaps in one of our paragraphs, we'll do it to paragraph number 1. Let me just add it down the bottom here because we're going to delete it afterwards anyway. If we were to write dot paragraph, so I want to do it to all of my paragraphs, which I've spelt wrong. And then I throw in my curly brackets. I'm then going to add in a width of 800 pixels. So I'm adjusting my content. My height, I don't want to change that, so I'm not going to add that in. My margins, okay, I am going to, rather than actually type them out individually, I'm going to copy and paste this that is down here, and I'm going to add it in here. I want my margins to be all 0, or not all of them, sorry. I want my top and bottom to be 0, because again, I don't want added content, but I want my left and right. I'm going to write, instead of it being like a pixel, I'm going to write the word auto there instead. Hopefully what this will do is it will centerize my content. And then finally, I'm also going to add in some padding. So I'm going to copy and paste this too. And my padding is going to be, sorry, I locked my screen and I'm not sure whether that affected my video. My padding is going to be 60 pixels the whole way around. So again, I will just add that in for all of them. Okay, so if I save and I refresh, interesting. Let's have a look and see what's gone wrong here. So I currently have, I've changed my selection so that then I am definitely on my paragraph class. Okay, so I have my content itself, which you can see that it's adjusted nothing. Then it has only changed the width of it, which is good. I then have my padding, which is that green color, okay, and then I haven't added a border or margin, so I'd expect that, okay. I think that this still extends too far along, so I'm going to actually go back to my CSS and I'm going to change the width. As I was saying, I've tried a smaller width. I've actually gone 200 pixels. I remembered and realized that I didn't have my semicolon, so things weren't loading properly. But you can see here it has, I guess, decreased the size of my width. Because I had that auto in, it centerized the text. However, what I'm also finding is that my color isn't centerized as well. Now I'm going to readjust that. I'm going to make it 400 and see what that looks like, because I forget my 4 key doesn't work well. So that then it's less dramatic. What does that look like when it's opened? I might even go 500 like we had originally. Okay, so I've now got this, but I want my color to go the whole way across. That is where the content wrappers come in. So what we are going to do is we're going to add another separate div. We already have like a class in our section. So if I scroll up to the HTML that I'm talking about, we already have a class here. I'm going to add in another class. I'm going to hide it under a div tag. I'm going to call my class content wrapper. what have I just done? I've typed in my class name, but I haven't written in class equals. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to put my div right down the bottom, just underneath the section. Okay. Are we happy now? No, because I didn't add in that. Okay, so if I then come over here, now I wrote my here, okay, if I change this to, instead of my class being paragraph, if I make my class content wrapper, I should really change my class name to content wrap. And then if I refresh, what now happens is I now have this content wrapper that means that my section itself, because the color that I have for my background, wherever it is, here, okay, my color is selected as being pink, but the content that is within this wrapper, which is essentially all of the text, is within that content, there to there, that is enclosed within this wrap, which has all of these different settings and whatnot, okay? And then what that's meaning is whatever sort of device I'm looking at my website on, whether it be a mobile phone, a tablet, or a large browser like so, I am able to have these different settings within my content wrapper, okay? So if we wanted to, we could do similar over here with our image really quickly. I might leave it at that though, okay? So what I would like to see is for you to perhaps put your entire website inside of content wrappers. So the way that you would do this, if I switch back to my CSS file and my HTML, so we have put a content wrapper just inside of this here, okay, because we had to put it inside of our classes. So you would then go down to your next class, or in my case it's an ID, and I would put another div, class equals, and again call it the same thing, and then again if I put my div down the bottom here, and if I copy and paste again, hopefully you're getting the idea. Hopefully you've paused this video by now. But if I then refresh, you can see that it's put all of my 3 paragraphs that I've done so far inside of those content wrappers, okay? Really quickly, then if you're not happy with like heights and stuff and that sort of thing, then you can physically go in and you can modify your margins, or you could modify the padding that you have top and bottom. So say for example we could have 60 padding on the sides and then like say 10 padding top and bottom if you wanted these to be tighter, okay? So you can modify how your website looks and is laid out. I'm going to leave it at that at 28 minutes. Oh my goodness, I hope that you have been watching this in double speed. And I want you to now have a look at some other methods of laying out your website that include the float and the fixed. What is it that I'm looking for? I'm just looking at the name of it. The flex box, that's what it's called, not fixed box. Flex box and grid kind of models as well. Okay.